Are you sure?
Here's the 30-second lesson on what legends know. Never ask a bride why she's getting married. Don't wear a skirt on a windy day. Deodorant is not a shower. Don't sniff chili flakes. And don't forget, saving is not investing. Legends don't just save, they invest in mutual funds. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
The real tamasha on our TV screens over the past couple of days, that is yesterday and today, has been about this tiny mayoral election in Chandigarh. Chandigarh, for all practical purposes, or to the extent that it can be described as such, is my hometown. Now, it's a small town, just 12 lakh people, just over 12 lakh people, with a municipal corporation. A municipal corporation where the corporators have very little to do. It has a budget of about 1,200 crores. That's all. I mean, for perspective, if you look at Mumbai, the Greater Mumbai Municipal Corporation, that has a budget of 52,609 crores. That's a real thing. This is 1,200 crore. And this also is mostly administered or run by the IAS officer, who is the municipal commissioner. So you have these councillors who do little things like examining some kude ka der somewhere, some garbage dump somewhere, and issues like that go on, or getting some park clean. So power is not that much, but there's been the election of the mayor. Election of the mayor, which Supreme Court has not set aside. They have not set aside the election, but they've done something very unusual and probably unprecedented, because I do not believe that I remember a case where a court in India has not set aside an election, but has only set aside the result of an election and restored what should have been the result. So in effect, Supreme Court has carried out a count. So it's a bit like, I know I tend to oversimplify things sometimes, particularly when I use cricketing examples, but I think this is still the most accurate way of explaining this. This is like an umpire cheats in a cricket match. An umpire cheats in a cricket match, maybe hides something, or maybe knocks a stump over while the batter is running from the other side. I shouldn't say batsman anymore. I should say batter is running from the other side. The fielder is collecting the ball, and the umpire knocks off this stump with his foot, which is caught on the camera, and declares the batter out and the other team to be the winner. Something like that happened in the Chandigarh mayor's election, or what is called as mayoral election. Now, a mayor presides over the municipal corporations and municipal council. That means these councillors who are elected in Chandigarh, the mayor presides over them. So this election was fixed like that, so the Supreme Court held. And what have they done, and why it's unprecedented? Usually, when they saw in India, when you see an electoral irregularity, Mrs. Gandhi's case, Indira Gandhi's case, Justice Jagmohan Lal Sinha's famous verdict unseating her, in those cases, election is set aside. So the court says that you used unfair practices. This election is set aside, which means a fresh election is held. In this case, the court said a fresh election need not be held and will not be held, because if a fresh election is held, it will not be full justice. So what have the judges done? It's a powerful bench. It's a bench headed by the Chief Justice himself, D.Y. Chandrachud, and also including J.B. Pardiwala, Manoj Mishra. By the way, these three judges were also among the 5 that delivered the judgment on the anonymous electoral bonds. A senior, powerful bench this one is. So they said that, look, if we just, I'm now interpreting their order, that if we just use the electoral law, which means once an election has been declared, you cannot then say do this or do that. You can order a recount, or you can order a fresh election. They say if we did that, it will not be justice. And I will read their lines for you, justifying what they've done. So they have used Article 142. Now, Article 142 is something we've spoken about in the past. That's the article that was used, for example, to do full justice or total justice in the Ayodhya case. That's also the kind of article the judges have used, say, for example, for intervening in the BCCI affairs and cricket affairs. In this case, they've said that to do full justice in the case, because we have examined the ballot papers that the returning officer, presiding officer declared as invalid, we found them valid and they were defaced, if anything, by the presiding officer himself. In which case, we've counted those ballot papers and we are declaring the election result. So we are declaring the Aam Aadmi Party Congress candidate, joint candidate, that was Kuldeep Kumar elected. Now, once again, what is unusual in this case? The unusual thing in this case, effectively, this even goes beyond the prayer that the aggrieved candidate had made. Aggrieved candidate means the candidate who should have been elected. Kuldeep Kumar, the joint Aam Aadmi Party Congress candidate. Even when he went to Punjab and Haryana High Court, he asked for a re-election. But he asked for a re-election knowing that his party and the Congress together had enough votes, had enough seats in the municipal council. Meanwhile, what happened was 3 of the Aam Aadmi Party councillors defected to the BJP. So there was an Operation Kamal even going on in a tiny municipal council election. Now you might say, why is the BJP getting so caught up in a tiny municipal council election? Why are they taking such risks? Why are they doing things which are brazenly wrong, so brazenly wrong that the Supreme Court, I avoid opinion on cut the clutter, and when I use opinion, I tell you, in this case, what happened there has been played in the Supreme Court. And the full video recording of what happened in that voting and the conduct of the presiding officer. Presiding officer, under the rules, has to sign at the bottom of every ballot paper. It's not that many ballot papers. It's only 36 ballot papers. It's just the councillors who vote. 36 ballot papers, he has to sign. He's looking at the camera, right? But as he's signing on 8 ballot papers, he's put some kind of a mark just more or less parallel to where he's signing. Now, I haven't seen these defaced ballot papers. The full Supreme Court order is not out yet. I'm hoping that when it comes out, given the fact that now the Supreme Court does unconventional things, particularly under Justice Chandrachud, I'm hoping and I'm half expecting that probably a sample of one of these defaced ballot papers will be appended to the judgment as evidence. So what played out in the Supreme Court was very unusual. This is the kind of scene you see in the movies, courtrooms in the movies, and you say, when you see those scenes in the movies, you say, Baba, real life mein courtrooms aise kaam nahi karte. In real life, courtrooms don't work like that. What happened in this case? The judges had the video of the voting and the presiding officer's conduct played out, enlarged on screens, on a large screen in the courtroom, so everybody could see it. And there was some bit of tamasha there, because at the final point, when the presiding officer Anil Masih declared the BJP candidate Manoj Kumar Sonkar to be the winner, the BJP councillors rushed to the podium and hugged him and basically thanking, congratulating him. And obviously, this is the spirit of Punjab. You won something, you must celebrate. That is something that made it so evident that the presiding officer was partisan and that he had indulged in partisan conduct. Again, not my opinion. I'm using lines and words used in the Supreme Court order. So when that scene came up in the video, obviously there was derision in the courtroom, and also one of the 3 judges on the bench actually held his head in his hands like that, because it was quite evident that there was partisanship. Now, why do the judges say? I will first tell you what logic have the judges employed to give this unconventional order. First, to carry out this unconventional exercise, which is getting this video, having this video played, and also having the sealed box of ballot papers with votes declared invalid by the same presiding officer, to have it shipped, to have it first sent from the Municipal Corporation of Chandigarh to the Punjab and Haryana High Court, the jurisdictional court there, and then having the court ship it to Delhi, and then unsealing it in front of everybody and taking out this supposedly invalidated and unfairly and illegally invalidated ballot papers. This is almost like biblical era justice or a Panchtantra style justice, where judges say, all right, you bring your evidence, you bring your evidence, whatever the evidence is. I will see it, doodh ka doodh, pani ka pani. All of you see what the truth is. And that is how it was done. Now, first of all, let me tell you the numbers. I told you just a bit earlier that Chandigarh Municipal Council has 36 members. Now, last election threw a finely cut result. So the last election gave a dead heat between the BJP and Aam Aadmi Party. Aam Aadmi Party, as we know, is very popular in Punjab. They rule Punjab with a very wide majority. BJP is not particularly popular in Punjab. Chandigarh is the capital of both Haryana and Punjab, has a mixed population. Aam Aadmi Party got 14 seats in the council. BJP also got 14 seats in the council. So 14 and 14. So what happened? Where did the rest go? So 14 and 14, Congress party got 6. Then Aam Aadmi Party and Congress were adversaries. Akali Dal got, Shiromani Akali Dal got 1 seat. So that is 14 BJP, 14 Aam Aadmi Party, 28, plus 6 Congress, 34, 1 Akali Dal, 35. 35, there are 35 elected municipal councillors. 1 vote belongs to the local MP. Chandigarh has only 1 seat in Lok Sabha. The local MP of Chandigarh is ex officio member of municipal council and has a voting right. That is from the BJP. That is Kiran Kher. So she got to vote also. So 36 votes. And what happened with 36 votes? So if 36 votes were cast as the equation was, as the numbers equation was on paper, BJP would have won because Aam Aadmi Party would have got 14, BJP would have got 14 of its own, plus Kiran Kher won. 15 was the largest number. That's how the BJP won the last time. Once again, one of those ridiculous things. I told you that all this fight is over 1,200 crores. And as we conclude this, I will also tell you my understanding of why the BJP took this so seriously as to do Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed, everything. As if power in a major state was at stake. No such thing was happening, but something else was at stake, to which I will come as we go along. Now, I told you it's a 1,200 crore per year municipal corporation in which councillors have a very small role or very little power of control. There, the mayor's position is even more peculiar because mayor is not elected for 5 years. The mayor is elected every year. So even if this Vardi had got elected this time, that was mayorship only for a year. January of next year, there'll be a fresh election. So what was the big deal? I will come to that as we go along. So now what's happened in this case? In this election, before this election, and that's the key thing, before this election, Congress and Aam Aadmi Party said that because our India alliance is coming up, we will vote together. So Congress municipal councillors decided to support Aam Aadmi Party's candidate. So Aam Aadmi Party's candidate got 14 votes of his own and also 6 from the Congress party. So Aam Aadmi Party got 20 votes. BJP, on the other hand, got 14 votes of its own plus 1 MP's vote, its own MP's vote. That made it 15, and 1 vote from the Shiromani Akali Dal. Shiromani Akali Dal was earlier staying away, but now, as we know, talks are going on between estranged former NDA partners to come together again. This election was one more indication that is moving seriously. So Akali Dal voted. So 14 plus 1 became 16 votes for the BJP. AAP and Congress had 20. So how do you make the BJP win in this case? Or if the batter is still running and fielder has not received the ball yet, how does the umpire declare the batter run out? The umpire kicks the stumps, right? And says, oh, I think the ball hit the stumps. Something like that happened in this case. What happens in this case is that 8 of the votes, all of these cast for the AAP candidate, AAP/Congress candidate. 8 of these votes, while the presiding officer is signing them, which he's supposed to do at the bottom of every ballot paper, it's a small blue ballot paper. You can see the videos. As he signs, he also puts some kind of a mark there. He doesn't go up and put a mark in front of the candidates because that will be too evident on camera, right? So he's clever, but too clever by half, right? So he puts a mark and then he says, there are marks on these ballot papers. So I think these are defaced. I'm declaring them invalid. So 8 ballot papers invalid. As 8 ballot papers become invalid, AAP Congress is reduced to 12 and BJP and its allies, BJP, its MP and Akali Dal ally become 16. That's how he declares BJP the winner. Now, when the court saw it, it was a bit like, once again, it was like a DRS verdict. Again, like a DRS verdict, you see it on your screen of what's happening and you can figure out. Usually these days you will see the umpire made a mistake. In this case, what it shows is that the umpire was cheating. And because this cheating was caught, the court now realized that if they call for a re-election, which is the normal procedure, since this controversy arose, in the sense that since the Supreme Court put a stay on the new mayor's election on Feb 5. Election took place on January 30. Since they put a stay on the new mayor's election on Feb 5, obviously the BJP figured that they were not going to win if there's a re-election with this composition in the municipal council. So they meanwhile went ahead and took 3 defectors from the Aam Aadmi Party. So 3 Aam Aadmi Party councillors joined the BJP. Now, Municipal Council of Chandigarh, although the elections are held on party symbols, the anti-defection law is not applied. So what was then 16 for the BJP would have now become 19 for the BJP. And what was then 20 for Aam Aadmi Party plus Congress Party would have become 17 for Aam Aadmi Party and Congress Party. That the Supreme Court thought would be denial of full justice. That's the reason they invoked their special powers under Article 142 of the Constitution and said, and I'm quoting now from the judgment, they gave a couple of reasons, 2 clear reasons why they were doing this very unconventional and unusual thing. First, they said there is infirmity only in the counting, in which case we are duty bound, the judges are duty bound, given our jurisdiction under Article 142 to do complete justice. And this is necessary to ensure that, and I quote again, process of electoral democracy is not allowed to be thwarted by such subterfuge. All judges' words, not mine. And again, I carry on in the judges' words. Or allowing such a state of affairs to take place will be destructive of the most valued principles on which the entire edifice of democracy in our country depends. So they said this situation is exceptional enough for them to use this exceptional power. Now all this is over. The election of a 1-year mayorship in a tiny city by the standards of Indian cities, that with a tiny budget where the municipal council has very little power. The second argument, as the judges went on for doing this unconventional thing, they said allowing the entire process to be set aside would further compound the destruction of fundamental democratic principles, which has taken place as a consequence of the conduct of the presiding officer, who deliberately put a mark to make these votes invalid. And he says these votes were defaced. In fact, when the presiding officer was summoned to Supreme Court, that is also something that we all saw on our TV screens. I will share some links with you. You can see that tamasha like in Hindi movies or like in any movies in India. I should stop saying Hindi movies because I don't see movies in other languages doesn't mean these things only happen in Hindi movies. So he's actually asked questions by the court. He's questioned by the Supreme Court that why were you signing this? First he's asked, why were you looking at the camera? I said, I was looking at the camera because there was so much halla in the hall. So I was looking at the camera, right? Then he's asked, why did you put these marks? And he said, look, I was only putting these marks to mark the fact that these votes were defaced. So when the judges opened the box, they said, look, we are opening these ballot papers. There is no defacement on the ballot papers. The only defacement, if anything, is the mark that you put here. And they also explained that there are only 3 situations in which a vote can be held invalid. One in which a voter has voted in favor of 2 candidates. In this case, there were 2 candidates. Somebody puts a cross mark in front of one, that's valid. But cross mark in front of both, it becomes invalid. Second, because it's secret ballot. Second, if the voter makes their identity known. Now that has happened in the past with some Rajya Sabha elections in India when one MLA who's already sold out or compromised with the other side and wants the candidate of the other side to win, deliberately either displays the ballot paper to others saying I'm voting for so and so. That because the voter has betrayed their identity, that vote becomes invalid. That's the second condition. The third condition is when the mark on the ballot paper is not clear. So the mark is not in front of a candidate's name, but somewhere in the middle. All these three conditions are not met. So these ballot papers are not invalid under any circumstances. These have only been defaced, if at all, by the presiding officer, and he has also lied to the court. So he was held guilty for two things for now. One, for having defaced these ballot papers himself and having subverted the electoral process. And second, for having lied, or allegedly, if you prefer that I use it, although we all saw what he said in the court. It's on camera, it's on Supreme Court's own recordings. So allegedly lied before the court. That's why the Supreme Court has also issued notice to him under section 340 CRPC for contempt of court, to which he has to reply within 3 weeks. I will also give you a couple of lines also further from the judge's order, and these are again in quotes. Judges say, one, as I told you, he's guilty of defacing these ballot papers himself, and second, of lying. So the line I quote from the judge's order, and I quote, that the officer has expressed patent falsehood for which he must be held accountable. And then also the judges say, and I quote again, evidently, the presiding officer is guilty of serious misdemeanor in his role and capacity as presiding officer. And the judges have also displayed that the ballots are neatly folded. So if they were to be defaced, if there was a mark on this side, maybe there would have been a smudge on the other side. It can't be at the bottom of the paper. So all of this played out in the Supreme Court. Now, having explained all of this to you about what would have been a minor cities, a small cities, inconsequential election, mayor's election, 1 year mayoral election, right? Every year there's an election like that. Why has this become such a big deal? And much as I would have loved to say it's all my wisdom, this wisdom I get from Chitleen Sethi, our Chandigarh correspondent. And she tells me that, look, I asked her, why has somebody made such a big deal of it? Why has the BJP made such a big deal of it? And why have the Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress gone all guns blazing first to the High Court? There are 4 cases in the High Court of Chandigarh, including one from the Congress party for habeas corpus, saying one of our councillors is missing and we think BJP has kidnapped him, right? So there are 4 cases in the High Court in Chandigarh, and now this Supreme Court case. So why such a big fight? What are the stakes in this election? And why has the BJP gone to such an extent to quote unquote fix this election? Actually, I don't even have to say quote unquote fix this election, because the Supreme Court has said this election was fixed. And she reminds me that just before this election, Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress, but in fact, Aam Aadmi Party spoke more. They said that this will be the first election that the India Alliance partners will be fighting together. And because it became a kind of test case for the India Alliance, they're fighting an election together. Congress and Aam Aadmi Party, usually sworn enemies, are voting for each other. The BJP also decided to pay back in kind. They said, if you think it's a test case for your alliance, we will make sure that you fail in your first endeavor as an alliance. And that's why the stakes became so high in this election. It was no longer about mayoralty in a tiny city, in a tiny municipal corporation for 1 year. It was about something much bigger politically.